Larissa called and cussed me out and told me that I didn't effing understand about the company and like I don't know anything about business. And I was like, that's the problem is I applied to a PR position. I did not apply to be an owner. I didn't apply to own my own company. I was manipulated and convinced that I had no other opportunity.
Okay, so I just want to get started with some background. So how did you get involved in the business?
I applied to a PR assistant job. That's exactly what I applied to. And I drove from Charleston. I took off work. They immediately called me. I had been working at the College of Charleston and as their real marketing director there, like I managed their social media, their websites, everything. And so whenever I left there, I needed to leave because they couldn't bring me on full time with their budget, and I needed to start paying my student loans back, and I needed, benefits. I think, so 3 years ago, I was 24, about to be 25. And so I just needed something different. So I started looking and I applied to that PR assistant role because the salary just, I was like, oh, PR assistant, like, I can do that. I've been doing marketing, So they immediately called me. I took off work and drove up from Charleston to Charlotte, which was like a 4-hour drive, and did my interview there. And the guy who interviewed me was an alumni of my college too. So he went to Carolina, USC, South Carolina. So I thought we had that in common. He's like, yeah, I was kind of skeptical at first because I was like, I read your website. It's really vague. Like, I don't know what to make of it, like what really is the opportunity here. And he was like, well, let me be honest with you, like alumni to alumni, like this is what it is. And so I trusted him in that sense of like, okay, like he seems legit and honest, but that's where they get you, is because that's how they are from the get-go. It's just lies from the get-go. But that's how I started.
Your company was Diverge Marketing Group, and it still has a social media presence, so anyone can go on there and take a look at it. It looks exactly like any of the other offices. It has a lot of office photos and a lot of motivational memes as well. Where did all of that come from?
There's a company that's based out of Arizona. It's called CLI. They are the ones who do everything. And whenever you sign your paperwork to become a manager, you basically are signing to say that you'll use Smart Circle's attorney, their accountants, their social media people. You basically use all of what they call their resources because these people already understand our business. So it's easier for them to, create all this stuff for us. So that's why everything's the same, is because it is the same. And managers, like, we don't have time to do all that on our own. Like, I definitely don't know anything about like building a website, and I definitely did not have time to do blog posts and stuff like that, or media releases or press releases and stuff. So there was a girl who had managed all that for me, and she was new right around the time when I was new, and she left that company like 3 months after I started. So I got a whole new account manager. So there's not just turnover in our business, there's turnover in the businesses that support this business. So it's like, I don't, it's like that should have been a big red flag to me too, and it wasn't.
One of your Glassdoor reviews says of your business, quote, legally doesn't mean ethically. Just because a business is operating within legal standards doesn't mean that it is operating ethically. I highly question the values and motives of management here. So first, do you agree with that review, and what ethical issues might that reviewer be talking about?
I think now I definitely agree with it now, because I think at the time and after I closed, I went back and all my leaders that I became friends with, obviously, I emailed them apologizing for just even involving them and how terrible I felt, because I didn't realize how deep into it I was. But I definitely at the time I was like, oh, they're just mad because I'm making them work long hours, and but yeah, it's definitely warranted. I definitely think that at the time I was doing and running my office the way that my superiors were telling me to, and my mentors who I thought had my best interest in mind and who I followed literally their advice to a T. I took it completely to heart, and I wanted to be successful at it, and I wanted my people to be successful at it. So, I mean, hindsight, they're right. You know, I was looking at some of my reviews after I closed, and I was like, oh my God, these people are like, they're dead on. Like, that's how I feel about the overall company, is how they felt about me at the time. But I didn't realize it because I was so caught up over this dream of like me being successful and me producing successful people. It's all like, it's very manipulative. So, and it trickles down. So what I was doing to my team and the hard work I was pushing them to do and coaching them to do, I was being taught and done the same thing to me. So it's a lot of brainwashing from the top down. So yeah, but hindsight, yeah, probably completely warranted.
In your email to us, you stated, quote, "My 2 years in the field, my W-2 said I made 28K, and I was the top salesperson on almost every campaign. As an owner, I was told to only pay myself what I made personally, solo in the field. I didn't pay myself a salary at all. My W-2 for that year was 17K. So that means as an owner, you made less than a rep."
Yeah. And no one told me like, oh, you actually won't make a lot of money your first year. Like, that's not what was promoted to me when I signed up for this, right? So it was like, you go through this training. After this training, you own your own business and you make $75,000 to $100,000 a year. I was like, okay, I'll do whatever it took. I missed so much, probably just like you did, and everyone else who's watching missed so much stuff. I miss, birthdays, graduations, weddings, like of close people, funerals, and personal time, like my like mid 20s, you know what I mean? It was like when you should be enjoying your life and figuring out what you want to do and who you are. So I think that you know just the concept of like once you're a manager, and that's ultimately why I closed, is because I was like, after that full year of being in the business, I was like, as an owner, being in the business as an owner, I was like, this is nowhere near what I was promised, like at all. This is not at all what I was being told. And also, I got exhausted from like essentially lying to my people that it was a real opportunity. And I think that people in my interviews could tell that I was not really believing what I was saying anymore, and like my meetings and my interviews and stuff like that, because I wasn't at all living that lifestyle that I was promoting. And so it became very, very hard for me to, continue that false reality, of thinking I was successful, but I really wasn't. Yeah. So yeah, I only paid myself what I was making solo in the field. So if I was out there with a rep, I would, make sure that they got all the money, because I didn't want them to quit. I was like, I want them to think that, we make a lot of money, and, I wanted them to believe in the business and the business model, but you just don't make money in the field. It's very, very hard unless you're really good at sales and you're by yourself. So I had as many solo days as I could. I just remember, like, there were weeks in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, how did I ever work that much? Like, I was up at 6 a.m. every day. I was in my office by 7, suited and booted, because you can't look terrible when you're interviewing these people and telling them how successful your business is. And then I would run my meeting, and then I would interview all morning, and then I would go to the field, and then after that I would go do business dinners and one-on-ones, and then I would break down not just days of, my people, I would break down my manager's people's days. And so I had like so many people calling me. It was ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how I did it, honestly, looking back. All of that for $17,000. And so that's what's crazy is, like, I look back and I'm like, how did I even justify doing that to myself? And how did I justify people who I thought had my best interests? How did I allow that to happen to me? Where like they were telling me how much I was worth, and how much my efforts were worth, but I could have been paying myself more, because technically it's your business, right? Like, your business is your money technically. But my managers and my mentors and the EVPs and the regionals and all of them, they were telling me, all your money, all your effort, everything has to go back into your business, and it'll if you put into your business, it'll produce out what you want it to. Well, I did that for an entire year, and I'm telling you, I barely left with anything. And so every week I had a call every 2 weeks. So after every rotation, it's 14, 12-day rotation, sometimes 14. You have a call with the people at headquarters. So there's a company, again, you sign to use their people. It's called Herb Joy and Aguiano Consultants. And those people would run calls with me every 2 weeks with my manager and then his manager. So it was like my promoting manager and then another manager was on the call too. And sometimes the regional VPs would get on there to give me advice, AKA tell me what I was doing wrong and why my numbers were down or why they were up. And I took those calls like so personally because they list out everything. They list out how much your office rent is, how much, bonus you gave your team, like what your team, your payroll taxes. It's like, so it's not just like you're making all this profit. It's like, this is how much goes, to paying for your ad person to post all your ads. This is how much you're paying for our services. This is how much you're paying for, the social media people. This is how much you're paying, so there's a lot of bills that go into like running, like having your own office. And I didn't realize that. Guess what? Until I was in the situation and I was on this call and I was like, where's all this money? How much is that? Like, what? I didn't know I signed up for all, for all this.
Yeah, they don't say that in the opportunity meetings. They just tell you have to pay for your rent and some supplies and your admin, but they leave out a lot of other things.
I forgot about her. She made way more money than I did. Yeah.
Your admin made more than you did?
Yes, dude. Yeah. And now she's married to another owner. She's an idiot to stay in the business because she knew everything I went through and how hard, I'm trying not to cuss, but like how hard I worked and how much effort I put into it. She knew all of that and decided to stay in the business. I just don't understand. Anyways, so yeah, this $100,000, it comes from thinking, okay, well, let's say your company's running 3 shows, right? And the goal is to make $1,000 a show, right? So $1,000 gross. You remember that?
Right.
Okay, just making sure you remember. So if your shows are making $1,000, which they don't always do that, we know that, right? So if your shows are making $1,000 or they average to $1,000, and you have 3 to 5 shows, typically 2 of my shows would break me even, which means that I would pay my bills and be good, like for 2 or 3 shows if they all did $1,000 every day for 12 days. Okay, so that's why you want to add on more shows, and that's why you continue to recruit. And so I was up to running like 8 or 9 shows. Like I had so many road trips because I was in a very small market in Columbia. So I only had 2 local stores and I had 2 road trip local stores, which were an hour each way. Terrible. So I had 4 technically local stores, and then and if I wanted to increase in shows, either they had to be in the same location, and also I don't have any control over that, by the way. That's another story. But I would have to pick up road trips. So it was like I was spending so much money sending my people everywhere. And I was taking all these risks because that's what my managers were telling me to do. I was like essentially their guinea pig, like my entire year as a manager, because they knew I wanted to be good and they knew how to push my buttons and they knew what to say to make me do what they wanted me to do, and so I had all these road trip stores, and I just remember there were so many. I don't think that there was any rotation that I didn't profit. I always profited. So I didn't have a single rotation where I was in the negative. There might have been sometimes when my profit was like $400 or, you know what I mean? Like hardly anything. And I was like, oh my God, but I never lost money. And so to me, I'm over here like comparing myself, to other owners who were going on vacations and not in the field with their people. And like, I'm looking at all these people. And whenever I decided to leave, all these people called me later and they're like, I'm not leaving with any money, So honestly, the $75,000 to $100,000, that's unrealistic. Now, if you would have told me like maybe like years before I was a manager, that might have been realistic because the products were way newer. They probably were doing way better in the stores. And, if you had an outside, just overhead might have been a lot less and you weren't doing as much with like having to protect, all these negative ads and, or negative reviews, and like you weren't paying as much. Maybe you could have made that much, but there is no one that I know of. And I've kept in touch with a lot of people who have left the business. And there's no one that I know of who made nearly that, at least in the last 6 years of, people being
Wow.
promoted. Yeah. So it's just unrealistic. And honestly, there's a regional VP that I did my assistant management training with, and straight up told me that she pays herself $40,000 a year. A regional VP. So, yeah, again, red flag, but ignored it. So, because I was like, well, sacrifices for your business. Like, that makes total sense. Like, you don't pay yourself anything, and you've been in the company for how long? And, like, yeah, it's just unbelievable how you just brainwash yourself to be like, this is okay, this is normal, and it's completely not.
The first couple people I talked to for this have said that owners have a personal account and a business account. Was it the same for you?
Oh, yeah. Again, something they don't tell you about. So they say, Stella, sorry, my dog. So they say that the reason you have a home account is what it's called, like a home office account, is because if you purchase, that's another thing that they don't tell you. Everything that you have, all those banners and the pop-up things and like your tablecloths and everything you pay for as a manager. You pay for all that out of pocket, all of it. So if there's a new campaign that, the EVPs or someone wants to, have you try out in your market, guess what? You pay for it. So that's why I had a home office account. Stella had a home office account. So I always kept like a couple grand in there. That's what I was advised to do, was to keep a couple $1,000s in there. And so I always kept a couple grand in there, because if I ever needed money, or if there was a shortage on my inventory, they would pull it from that money, right? So every rotation, they reconcile what was sent to you versus what was sold. And if there's any discrepancies, they pull it from your profit, right? Well, they would pull it from that money because they had it there. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they had to go through your bank and request it, or you have to transfer it. They already had it. So like, that's why they encourage you, so they don't get screwed over. You know what I mean? So I get it why they had that. But it also, it's just funny because whenever I closed my office, I thought I had almost $25,000 in my local account. I did. I had that much money in my local bank account when I closed. I was like, I can live off of this until I find a new job. Easy. I've been living off of 17 grand this year, So I was like, I can live off of this for a couple months until I find a new job. Well, literally, when I went to close my office, it was like a week later, we had my call, and all my money, except for $1,000, had been moved to my home office account, because that's standard operating procedures, is what I was told. So I'm over here broke, no job. I have no way of like getting income at this point. I had to move all my stuff from Columbia home. So I was like freaking out. But yeah, definitely there are two accounts, and they have complete control over them, because again, you sign that you're going to let them, quote unquote, assist you and guide you in your finances.
The one line from your email that stood out to me the most was, quote, I would like to shed a light on how even worse ownership is. I think a lot of the reps you interviewed initially have a different understanding, and that's because we were trained to lie and trained to even tell ourselves we had a different reality of our situation. So let's talk about it. And how bad was ownership really, based on your experiences?
Okay. I was in the field every day, except for 2 days in May, because my friends were teachers and I went to Myrtle Beach with them. I only took off 2 days the entire year I was an owner. And guess what? I got raked over the coals for it, because my GPAs, what were they called? My averages were down. So I took off 2 days. And then everyone else who started around the same time I did, they were taking off, for, Thanksgiving, Christmas, because that's what they were promised going through the field, is that they could have free time with their families and still make money. And I didn't, because my mentors were telling me that if I wanted to succeed long term and I wanted to promote people out, that I needed to be in the field every day. So I was. And yeah, they were mentally abusive, verbally abusive. They know what your triggers are, so that's why they like create just enough relationship with you so they know what motivates you and what will, get under your skin and make you do what you should do, right? So my goal was always like, I'm going to pay for, my parents to retire, and I'm going to pay for my niece and my nephews to go to college, and I'm going to pay off my student loans, and like that. Those were my goals, was like taking care of my family. And so they always knew how to manipulate that and to get, and to, make me do what they wanted me to do to keep my averages up, so they made more money, right? Because the more money that my office made in the field, they only profited, right? So they get a percentage of whatever is sold in the store. Okay. So like the store gets their profit. My business gets my profit, which my company splits with the rep. And then Smart Circle gets a completely different piece of the pie. So they don't take any hit if your numbers are down. They only profit. So for me, I was in the field every single day. And then I would go, to dinners and one-on-ones and team nights. And I was dating someone at the time, and I did not deserve him. I will straight up say that. He did everything for me. Would help me with my laundry, would help me, come down and make me dinner. And like, just, I don't know how I got through the field without him, or how I got through my year of management without him, because he just helped me so much. Oh my God. But, there was a time that, my mom was in town, or my aunt came down from Michigan, and my mom drove up to see me and surprise me with my aunt, because they had asked me, like, when's your day off? Like, when's your day off? I said, Monday. Every other Monday is technically my off day. But no, I'm still in office because I have conference calls and I have to still interview, because constant revolving door, right? So I remember that my mom came up with my aunt, and I hadn't seen my aunt in like 10 years. Yeah, I called my manager and I was like, you know what? My aunt's in town, my mom's here. I haven't seen them, and I hadn't seen my mom. I mean, even they lived in Charleston, I was in Charlotte during the field, and I barely saw my family. I spent every holiday in the field, every holiday at home. It was, you can probably tell, like, I'm like about to cry, because it was awful. It was like the worst experience. So even as an owner, I that was a huge turning point for me. Was like my aunt and my mom were in town, and I was on conference calls where we were sitting having lunch together, and I was like, I just remember like getting off the call and being like, this is all going to be worth it, and I love what I'm doing. And I was like completely lying, to myself and to my family about, how happy I was. And when I closed my office, all my friends, like on Facebook, like every social media, everything, they were like, oh my God, I thought you were doing so well. And like, I was like, no, I'm doing great. Like, I'm doing really well, but not mentally, not emotionally. I'm not doing well. I'm doing well as far as the standards of the company and what their expectations are. I'm doing well, but I was completely lying to myself that I was working towards something that just was unrealistic. And and I woke up one day and I was like, what am I even doing this for? I'm like, killing myself. Like, I was so unhealthy. I had no time to work out. I had no time to meal prep or do anything for myself. Like, there was zero free time. I couldn't spend time with my family, my friends, nobody. Like, it was awful. So, and I think it's like just a completely different scale. When I say that they take, like, yeah, I know reps feel like they were very much so taken advantage of, but it's even worse as a manager, especially when you're good at it, because they just, again, know how to manipulate you to get you to do what they want you to do. So I was like, I'm a people pleaser by nature too. So I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Or, oh, you need, like, there was a regional VP who regional manager who was like, I need help on this campaign, or, during the holidays, a lot of the offices were struggling, and I wasn't, because I had been in the field and recruiting and busting my butt, to get my numbers up and do really well. And so I sent my people, a lot of my strong leaders who I saw a lot of potential in, and I was like, oh my God, all these people are going to get promoted in like no time because they're just so on fire right now. And I sent them out to help other offices when they were struggling. Like, regional managers needed my people to come help them in their offices. Like, again, should have been a red flag to me. But then, so I sent my people everywhere, and then they all came back and quit because they were like, what in the world is going on in these people's offices? If that's how you start a new business, or this is what, it never gets better. The regional manager was in the field solo on pizza. Like, you know what I mean? It was just so unmotivating for my team. So whenever I needed help from other managers, nobody could send anyone. It was like a 180. It was like, oh, well, we, like, everyone's short staffed now, or else I would. It was like, well, I helped you, and no one was, really open to helping me. It was just a really, like, eye-opening situation, I almost didn't get promoted because Matt, I was so sick. I hadn't been that sick in years. And I remember I woke up one day, and it was my off day, and I was still like an assistant manager, and I called my owner. It's funny that we called him that, but it's like I called my manager, and I was like, there's no way I can get out of bed today. Like, my boyfriend, who I lived with at the time, who literally paid for everything. Again, I made no money. He even got on the phone, was like, I'm going to have to take her to the hospital. Like, she's just so sick. My manager, stone cold, was like, what if this is her business? Is she not going to get up and go to work? Like, no one else is going to do it for her. So there's just zero, like, humanity in the business. Like, if you have a rep that doesn't go to the field, you're like, whatever, I'll fire them, right? Like, as a manager, you just go do it. It's like, if you have an off day or you have something scheduled, like, dude, I'm telling you, I was thinking about this last night. I didn't go to a single doctor's appointment for 3 years. I just finally got my teeth cleaned, like, maybe 2 years ago, because I finally was, like, out of the business and had I could schedule it and actually go and not have to cancel it because something came up. Like, I hadn't done anything preventative for my health care, nothing, in like 3 years, because there was always something that came up that I had to cancel. It was like, it just nonstop, like, you just can't plan stuff. You truly can't. It's like, oh, you have a wedding to go to? Oh, it's your friend from college, one of your, like, roommates from college. Well, guess what? Your person just quit, so you're in the field, and if you don't go to the field, you're probably going to get fired, right? So, like, that, and then all your dreams and everything you've worked towards is just gone. But as an owner, it's like times 10. It's like completely on you, and you don't want to be non-compliant, right? Because then you'll get in trouble with, like, the retailers, and then if you're in trouble with the retailers, then you'll get closed down, and then really all your goals and everything you've worked towards is just gone, So to me, I think the biggest issue as an owner is you just take the hit for everything. Like, if you're a leader, your leader takes the hit. Your manager takes the hit. But as an owner, you take the hit for everything. You take the hit when it's good, when it's bad, and there's a lot more bad than there was good. I will tell you that. Like, and also anytime I did anything with my team, or like the Dallas conferences, or, the retreats, and sending them here and there and everywhere, all that's out of pocket from me, So it was like, one, I wasn't paying myself, and two, I was investing in my people and investing, but it was like all my money was just going to all these, like, to Smart Circle, essentially, to, like, develop these people to benefit them in the long run, So the EVP who has a house in Miami, I remember her on the phone with me, like, you're doing so great. Like, I'm going to let you launch, like, your company is going to launch government funded cell phones inside Dollar Generals. And I was like, what? I was like, I can barely get people to stick working inside Sam's Club and Costco. No one is going to work in Dollar General, you know, selling government funded phones. Like, I was just like, what? You know, and it's just like they constantly present everything as like an opportunity for you, but it's not an opportunity. It's just more ways that they can take advantage of you, you know. And if that campaign was a flop, guess who it affected? Me. Me, not them, you know, not them at all. So I had a girl in my office who moved with me, and she was a leader of mine, moved with me. My other two strong leaders ended up, one of them I had to fire, who's I'm still really good friends with. He's such a goofball. And then the other one I'm friends with now, but I hated him because he quit and he was so good and I was so mad. But he essentially told me, hindsight, that he only moved with me so he could quit because he was terrified of my manager. Right. So he's like, that's essentially why I moved with you. And I was like, okay, touche, like hindsight, obviously. But the other girl who moved with me, she went to the same college as I did. We're from the same town in Charleston, around about the same area. And we just kind of like, you know, we understood each other. You know, she's very smart. She's a very beautiful girl. You know, and to me, I was like, she's gonna, you know, she's it. She's my outside deal. Like, she's just powers through anything. She's like just a monster. You know, she's like really good at building relationships, which is everything that makes you good in this business, she's good at. So she was my outside deal. I knew it, and she was pushing towards it. I knew she wouldn't quit. I was so worried so many times that she would, but she didn't. And so I didn't really know what I was doing wrong to not be able to promote her out. And it was right at my like 6-month mark or 7-month mark. And I had been down to Larissa's Miami house because I was doing really, really well. And that was like a reward. It was like me and Jessica, who's like, I don't know if she's a regional now, but she's pretty good in the business at building relationships with people. But she's out of Cincinnati, I think. And then 2 of her outside deals were there with us. And they were telling me to tell the other 2 what to do and why I was so good at what I was doing and how I was doing it and what I did with my team. And I thought I was there as a reward and that it was like a vacation, but it was like the meeting of the minds and we're going to, you know, help you improve. But really I was there to like coach the other 2. But Larissa, she just built this like half-ass relationship with me to the point where I trusted everything she said, and she flaunts her Louis Vuittons and flaunts her, you know, 2 pieces of Chanel jewelry. And like everyone thinks that, you know, she is something that she isn't. That's nice and everything, but when this company finally goes under, from people like you and me who are actually like standing up and saying this, you know, enough's enough, she won't have her condo anymore, you know. And so I don't know, I just remember being like, is she trying to tell me that working inside Dollar General is gonna that's something that I can promote to people? Because I can barely promote standing inside a Sam's Club and a Costco right now, you know what I mean? Like, that's almost too much. But the way that they presented it to us, well, people used to be outside, so you're lucky to be inside. You know what I mean? So it was like they wanted to expand the business. They want to expand, you know, their clientele, but really they own all the clients. They own everything. And so this was like a government funded, but you still made money somehow. I didn't really understand how it worked because I never signed up to do it. I quit before that. But I got on that tangent to say, my girl that moved with me, she was going to be my outside deal. I knew it. But they told me, like, you're not doing something. You need to go visit Kinsey, who was in she was in your video.
Oh, yeah. Her voice is in my head.
So I went and visited her for like 4 days. It was like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right, trip. And she's in Kansas City. And I got reprimanded for putting myself in a Holiday Inn instead of staying at an extended stay. As an owner, it might have been like an extra $40 a night or something, but I got reprimanded for it because that was a bad look on her reps to expect that. Yeah. And she got mad at me that I went and visited family while I was out there. She got mad at me. I say mad at me, but she was like, I'm really pissed. Like, had a critical conversation with me. But anyways, she's another one who told me right in my face that she pays herself $40,000 a year. And that the reason she's more successful than me is because she spends more time with her people. But you know what I noticed while I was there? Is that her now husband is her admin. And his kids are involved in their, like, literally they come and hang out at the office. Like, she's there nonstop, and she just has made her life every single minute of it. She doesn't talk to her family. Her dad is a very successful businessman here in Charlotte, where I live now. Very successful. She went to an amazing school here, and she went to college at Charleston, where I worked for a while. And I have friends who know her, but they have no clue what she does. She just, again, just like I did, flaunts all the positives and how she's doing so well and all this stuff. And when I finally got out of the business and I had posted all these pictures with her, people were like, oh my God, that's what she does? Like, oh my God. Because they know how, like, sketched out this business is, you know? So when she told me to my face that she's been in the company for what, like 6 or 7 years now? So I don't even know how long. That was maybe 6 years when yeah, she's been in the business for a long time, and she's paying herself $40,000, but she really held on to the fact that she was able to buy a $4,000 bed and not wink an eye at it. And I was like, you know what? Good for you, honey, because who cares? People do that all the time. People go and buy Chanel all the time. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but what they don't do, what you guys don't have that all these other people have is a freaking personal life and, like, genuine friends outside the business. My promoting manager asked the girl in my office, another outside deal of his, and his admin, and, like, a couple other people from the business to be his bridesmaids in his wedding, because he married someone who was a former admin that he met in Cancun. So, like, they keep it in the family. You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to be good at this business, you have to, like, marry into it and have someone else who's just as crazy and just as brainwashed as you are in it. It's like, and just as passionate about this unrealistic success. It's like, what are you even working towards? You know, I was like, I don't understand, like, how these people can be like, yeah, this is why I make this and justify it. And that was my turning point, honestly. I didn't even go to her office the next day. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy my time here. And whenever I flew back, I called my parents and I was like, you know what? Enough's enough. Like, I'm tired of lying to myself. I've been lying to you. I've been lying to all my friends, literally everybody, that I'm happy and I'm successful. And I'm successful in the sense of what their idea of success is, but not personally, not professionally, in a professional sense. And I just remember being like, what am I even working? What am I doing here? I've been doing this for 3 years. I literally gave it my all. And that trip to Kinsey, I paid for. I paid for everything, the whole trip, the flight, the hotel, my rental car, my food, I paid for it, right? Like, but it wasn't my idea to go. You know what I mean? It's like, we're giving you the opportunity to go, but it's really out of your pocket. So it's like, you put all this in, and then I was like, what am I even doing here? Like, I'm not even working towards anything anymore. So that was when I called my manager and I said, look, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do it. I don't know why I'm doing it. And they were shook. They were all shook because I was doing so well. Like, I was doing very, very well. It wasn't like I was, had bad averages and, didn't have any leaders or had to start back. It was just, I was solo in the field and I was exhausted, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't convince people anymore to work this hard for what, And so that was, again, when I decided to just close. And my manager came down and put a lock on my storage unit. Like I was some kind of criminal that I was going to go sell all this inventory. And that I was like, I have been such a good business partner to you, to this entire company. I've been so responsible and so communicative and organized. And then this is how you treat me at the end of it. And then literally no one helped me close. I had to reach out to former owners to help me close. Now, the only person, people were like, yeah, use me as a reference. But I had other reps who I went through the field with who used my manager as a reference. And they were calling me after because they said he would tell people to not give them the job. So I was like, well, put me down. I don't mind giving you a reference. You're a hard worker, you know, like I'll give an honest, I'll try to explain as best I can what we did, you know? So to me, I was like so nervous to put anyone, you know, as a reference. And also because of how much you shut people out as a rep, imagine how much you shut people out as an owner. Like I didn't talk to my family. They only knew what I posted on Facebook. Like my friends and family didn't know anything really what was going on with me. And so whenever I decided to close, everybody was like, what? You know, like, oh, we thought you were so happy. And like, what happened? Like, oh my God, like, you know, and I broke down to my friends here in Charlotte, like my closest friends, and I was like, I just feel terrible. I've been such a terrible friend. You know, I haven't been there for you and didn't go to your wedding. And, you know, it was like, I didn't have a relationship with them anymore because I shut them out for so long. And same thing with my family. So whenever I went to close, I had to reach out to people who were former owners. And then I reached out to like a program manager who used to be an owner, who I had a great relationship with and still have a great relationship with her. She's not in the business anymore. She's a fantastic person. But anyway, so she ultimately like helped me close because she had already been there, done that. And then of course my account manager through Anguiano, who's not in the business, and she and I are still friends too. But like, it's just this reoccurring thing that like the only positive that came out of this experience is like the people that I met who like aren't in the business anymore. You know, it's like everyone's very, you know, professional and motivated and, you know, now successful. But I think what kept me there for so long was like just all the manipulation and the lies and telling myself that I was like believing what I was saying, but I didn't really live it. You know, it was like, you can do all of this and you can have all this. And I was like, yes, you can. I will have. But it was like I never did have. So like whenever I left the business, they begged me to be a program manager because they were so nervous about how many people would quit after me because I was doing so well. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to have any part of this. And Larissa called and cussed me out and told me that I didn't effing understand about the company, and like, you know, like I should be grateful and I'm selfish and I don't know anything about business. And I was like, that's the problem, is I applied to a PR position. I did not apply to be an owner. I didn't apply to own my own company. I was manipulated and convinced that I had no other opportunity but to do this. That's the way that they present it. After you've been in it for so long, it's like, well, good luck. You have to tell people that you worked in a Sam's Club. You know, and truly and true blue, it was so hard getting a job after that. I think if you're like in a rep in the field, you can get a job after like being there for 4 or 5, 6, 7 months, maybe a year. But after 3 years of doing that shit, it was so hard to explain what I did, right? So I had to play around with my resume. That's why if you look at my LinkedIn, it says I put on there Smart Circle regional manager, because that's essentially what you are. You work for them. You don't own a business. So I was getting interviews with people for like marketing positions, and then when I couldn't speak to marketing, it was like, okay, what did you do? And then they would like cancel the second interview. So it was just really hard to find a job after that. So I ended up in sales, and now I do recruiting, which ding ding ding, we're all good at that, you know, like, so I'm really good at talent scouting, but I don't have to train people anymore. I don't have to convince them anything. I work a 9 to 5. Sometimes I take a 2-hour lunch and they don't give a shit. And, you know, like when it's time to go, it's time to go. And they're like, don't be a hero, leave. Like I have a 401k, like I have all the benefits, everything that you should expect out of a job. But Smart Circle tells you that you don't deserve any of that. So like whenever I was going through the field, I was like, how dare I ask for insurance? How dare I, expect that my employer gives me PTO? How dare I take a vacation? And I think that that's what kept me so long, was just the idea that I couldn't find a better opportunity, when in reality, they're everywhere. And it's really unfortunate, Stella. It's just really unfortunate that so many people are like still in it, who I know they know it's bullshit. Like my manager, his other outside deal, like they know, because whenever I told them that I was leaving, they're like, yeah, Rachel, like we know, like you just need to stick it out and it'll be worth it and blah blah blah. And like this year I'm set to pay myself $70,000 or $60,000. I don't remember what she told me, but I was like, I don't want to stay. Like, why would you stay in a company that you know you're like hurting people's lives and like that you know that you're not running it ethically, you know, like that review. It was like, why would you personally choose to stay in something that you know you're screwing with other people? Like, and you know that it doesn't lead to anything. It's just making you money right now. And I think like if you're going to get out of the business, if there's any advice I give people, if you're going to leave the business, you're going to outwork everyone anywhere else that you go. Why would you stay in something when there's like, it's just, again, a false sense. It's a false sense of accomplishment, and it's a false, like what are you working towards, you know? And I think that that's a big thing people need to look at is like, what you're doing now, you're going to be doing the same thing 5 years from now. The business isn't going to change. It's only going to get harder because things like this are being done. And, you know, one of the EVPs that was over me isn't even in the business anymore. Right? Like his name's Mike, and he's not even in the business anymore. And it's so funny to me because after I left the business, I had a bunch of people call me, obviously. I had a lot of like reps and other owners who were like right on the same playing field as me. They were like, oh my God, like Larissa ran a call about you. Like you're supposed to be, you know, you were going to win. If I had stayed in the business the month after I closed, they had like the big, you know, meeting, the big vacation, the R&R. And I would have won Rookie of the Year. That's what Larissa told everybody on this call. And they're like, so why'd you leave? Why'd you leave? And I had all these leaders who were calling me, asking me why I left, because I had relationships with everyone. I invested in people. I truly freaking invested everything I could into as many people as I could. And not just in my office, but in like everybody's offices. Like all the regional people would send me their leaders. Like I was like a go-to person, you know? So like people were, and I'm not just saying that due to like, you know, to my own horn, but like, I hope that like, you know, where I was in the business and like the reason for me leaving, like if that helps one person who like watches this to like not go through with it, like it's worth it. So, but to me, like they had so many people calling me and I was like, okay, well, I don't benefit from telling you to quit. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't benefit me to say, yeah, I'll go screw over your manager on your campaign day. Like that doesn't benefit me at all. So when people would call me, I'd ask them, you know, before I told them why I left, I was like, why do you want to stay? You know, why do you want to be an owner? And they said, money, free time, whatever the other ones were, like, you know, mainly money and free time. I was like, well, guess what? After I closed my office, after taxes, after my bank reconciliation, I still don't have my money. And what I will get is almost $10,000. And that's all I'm leaving with after taxes. If that is not the saddest shit you have ever heard, an entire year of work, paying myself $17,000 and leaving with $10,000. You can save $10,000 working a $35,000 job, working a $40,000 job. So whenever people called me asking me that, I was like, I worked every day except for 2 days in the field. Even when I visited Kinsey, even when I went on anywhere to visit other people, like when I was on my assistant management training, I still went to the field every day. And I was like, people just don't realize that, you know, the amount of work and the amount of effort that goes into it. So I was like, there's no money. There's no free time. I'm sorry to tell you that, but there's just not. And I've worked my ass off. I've done everything that I possibly mentally and physically could try to do to get myself to that position. And then my mentors, all they can tell me is keep going, keep going, keep going, keep doing it, keep doing it. It's just like, why? You know, at some point I was like, no, I'm not going to keep doing it because there's no point in continuing when it's just this could be carrot that they're dangling in front of my face. And I just got tired of being their guinea pig.
Wow. Going back to something you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You discussed the owner marrying their admin, right?
I think that they met before He wasn't in the business. I don't know how they
Okay, but you got him to join the business. Okay. So
Yeah.
you have an owner bringing someone into the business, marrying them, bringing children into the business, and raising them in the beliefs of the business. This sounds rather culty to me. Would you call this a cult?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, and I feel, I don't know. It's just really sad the way that they have to hook people. Like I told you, I was like a part of like their elite group for a while. And like whenever I got promoted, one of the regional managers, or sorry, one of the executive vice president, who is no longer in the business, by the way, quit maybe a couple months after I did, um, invited us, me, the other girl who was promoted, and then not my manager, but his manager. So it was like all of us, and then we got to bring our significant other. And when I say we got invited, meaning we paid for the flights, you know what I mean? So like we got this vacation that was designed to like lock in my significant other at the time and the other girl's significant other at the time, to lock them into the business. Like, this is what you could have, this beautiful house. It's in Andover, or wherever it was in Massachusetts. Beautiful area. His house is stunning. Like, his wife is stunning. His kids are so cute and, and smart and very active and involved. But I got to see firsthand how much his daughter never saw him. It was so sad. And him and his wife have an open marriage, and to me, I'm just like, what kind of life is that? Like, I just looked at that and I was like, no. And then when I went to Miami and I stayed with the other EVP that I was, since I was doing really, really well. And her husband, they had just gotten married, and she's constantly traveling and never sees him. And he asked to like come visit like after we left, and she's like, you can't, because I have all these conference calls and all this stuff. And I was just like, what kind of life are these people living? Like, at what cost are you rich? And to me, I think that like changed my mentality about what rich meant.
In your email to us, you said that your promoting owner, Matt, and the two national consultants, Larissa and Mike, quote, did a conference call with me. They begged me to stay in and be a program manager because they knew my leaving would make so many other newcomers and reps I had relationships with question if they should leave too. So take me through that conversation. How did they try to get you to stay?
Well, first off, they like cussed me out for like, well, Larissa did, for wanting to leave, and how I didn't understand and I was stupid, and until I got my shit together and could be an adult, she didn't want to hear from me. And then it was like 2 days later when I finally decided that I wanted to leave, they were like, we do have other like, when I say beg, like, what I mean, as far as like, they weren't like, please, 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 but they were very much so like, we need you as a program manager. We can really utilize you. This is where your career can continue in this business. You know what I mean? So they, again, present it as an opportunity, but it was basically them saying like, their underlying reasoning for offering me that is because they knew how many relationships I had in the company and how many people would leave. And that's exactly what happened. So whenever reps started quitting, and then their managers would be like, well, why are you quitting? Well, Rachel is a big mentor of mine, and she told me she doesn't make any money, and like, that's why. Guess who called me? All three of them were calling me, and they were like, and this was after I closed, like, I was like, I don't want to see you again, I don't want to hear from you. And he called me, the EVP calls me, and he goes, I hear that you're telling reps to quit. And I was like, no, I'm not. I was like, I don't benefit from doing that, but I'm not going to lie to somebody if they call me and ask me why I left. Like, I'm not gonna lie. So I think that they were just scared of that, and it shows even more that they were even more scared of it whenever they reached out to me to tell me not to talk to people. And I was like, bullshit. I'm not gonna not tell people. That's so stupid. That again, that just plays on their reasoning for, hush hush, and behind, what is it? Smoke mirrors, and it's just,
Yeah, smoke and mirrors. Yeah.
yeah, it's just, that's just how they run their business. And whenever I left, they ran conference calls about me. Like, and I heard this from other owners who quit after me, who called me to help them close. And they were like, yeah, the day after you left, like, you closed your business, and Larissa ran a conference call saying that you got lazy and that you just wanted to get engaged and that you just wanted to get married, and that's all your priority was, and that you weren't going to the field anymore, and you weren't interviewing. And I was like, wow, that is completely not right. So there was a time I was in Charleston, after I had closed, and my friend and I were out at dinner, and I had someone else text me that she was still talking about me. This is like months later. I texted her and I was like, I don't know how you sleep at night, telling all these people all these lies. And I was like, I truly don't understand how do you feel okay with lying about why people leave just to keep other people there for what, another couple months? Like, why are you like, I was like, I just don't know how you continue to live your life like that. It's so dishonest.
Did she respond to you?
Of course not, because I'm a negative influence. She just ignored me. But yeah, I mean, and same thing for like, I live back in Charlotte now. This is where I went through the field. And I swear to you, I had PTSD whenever I passed by that Starbucks that I first had my one-on-one with my leader. It's awful. I'm like, oh, this is where it used to be, and then like he moved offices. So he's not in university anymore. He's down in South Charlotte by the Carowinds. And I'm like, and to me, I've been back since February. And I'm like, if I ever run into him, like, what would I say to him? You know what I mean? I'm like, well, we haven't spoken since I told him I was leaving, I just don't know how they know it's bullshit. They know it doesn't lead to anything, unless it only benefits the top at the top people.
Another Glassdoor review of your business says, quote, I should have trusted my instincts. If you think something feels off, then don't waste your time.
Yeah.
So based on that, what do you think people should look for so they can avoid falling into the trap of this business?
Great question. Okay, so I have a friend who just moved to Phoenix. She was my college roommate. She reached out to me and she's like, hey, like, this company contacted me. They saw my resume on Indeed, and it's a marketing firm and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, whoa. I was like, no. I was like, before you even go in, you need to pry on the phone. And if they are vague AF on the phone, they're going to be vague AF in office as well. And they also talk a mile a minute. So if they are, spitting out a lot of scripted but conversational things to you, like, we're growing and, we're in a unique situation. We have all these clients and we need more people to expand their network. And, I need more managers, but I just need to make sure that they're trained. Like, all of these are like red flags. Like how many people were in the lobby with me when I interviewed, just the crazy morning atmosphere, just how weird the office environment is, and everyone's standing up and there's no desks, there's no phones, there's no computers, there's nothing like that. So it's not a normal business setting like they present it to be a business. And then also the admin is constantly on the phone because it's just your business, and the company as a whole is a revolving door. So people come and go all the time. So they constantly have to be recruiting. That is their lifeline. And also, again, their social media pages. If you go on their Facebook and they have like no likes on anything, what I like doing now is going and looking at who does like this stuff, and it's usually their admin and their president, and that's it. And also, if they are associated, or if it says, since you liked this page, you also might like this page, you know what I mean? And then it's like one person's company and then another Smart Circle company, like, that's a red flag too. That's the easiest way to know that it's them, is because now I think what the route that they're going, and I closed my office in officially my company dissolved in February of 2017. But I closed my office. I was done in the field in like September. So like,
oh, wow.
That's not, dude, and I hired a lawyer to push that through. Like, I had someone who was like, we were on the phone every day making sure stuff was getting done. So, I mean, I guess another red flag is just look at their social media, find out. I think now more than ever, they're probably trying to be a little bit more upfront that there are multiple offices, because so many people are finding that out so soon. Where, like, when I started, it was like you got to Dallas. The Dallas conference is where you found out that everyone was affiliated with the same company, you know? I thought the way I was presented the Dallas conference is that it was a leadership meeting. Like, companies send their people to leadership meetings all the time. Like, I went to some through, you know, multiple jobs I've had, you know, but they're like different companies coming together for, you know, a leadership meeting, not the same company that everyone works under their umbrella. So that's another red flag. And also, if they're just sketchy and defensive about answering your questions, Larissa also used to tell me to keep a stack of 20s in my drawer at my work. Yeah, this is funny. You're going to like this. So she told me to keep a stack of $20 bills, because there are people who would come in and tell me that I wasted their time and their money and their time off and their gas to get over to my office to interview with me for a bullshit job, right? So they would call me out. And they were right, you know what I mean? So instead of me getting a bad review, Larissa said she used to do this, and she encouraged me to do it as well, because again, I didn't know to do this until I brought up the situation to her, and then she told me that she went through the same thing, coincidentally. And she goes, well, keep a stack of 20s in your drawer and then give them a $20 bill and say, hopefully, you know, I'm so sorry to waste your time. It's not my intention. Here's $20. You know, will this, you know, make up for your time and your money?
So essentially, take this bribe and keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, having met her,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. So there are many people out there who will see this interview and say that you were a failure, that you were a bad owner, that you didn't work hard enough. What do you say to
Oh,
that?
they'll definitely say that I didn't have what it took, that I gave up, and that, you know, they'll say a bunch of stuff, and I got to the point I just don't care. But I don't think that they'll pin it on my manager, because he's still in the business. I don't know why or how, because everyone that he's tried to promote has failed. And I don't even know if the other girl who was in this business is still open, but she was in Orlando. She might have flipped her office and gone somewhere else. I don't know. I don't keep in touch with them. Everybody has cut me off. Like, even his reps, like, they stopped following me on Instagram because he told them that I, you know, just lied to them about why I was leaving, you know, and so they had this beef with me for a while until they decided to leave the business.
Like you said, your promoting owner, Matt, is still in the
Yeah.
business in Charlotte. If he sees this interview, what do you think he would say?
I'm sure he would tell his reps, if his reps brought it to him, that I'm full of shit and that I had a bad attitude and a bad student mentality, and I didn't listen to anything he said, and that I wasn't designed for the business anyways, or I don't know what he would say. Probably something like that. He'll say whatever. He's like, if there is, okay, I don't wish bad on people. I really don't. But he is like the one person that I've met in my entire life who is genuinely a terrible person and a master manipulator. Like, emotionally, I saw him do it to his girlfriend, who's now his wife, and I confronted her about it. I was like, I don't know how you put up with this, but he just knows how to build just enough relationship with people to use it against you. But then he comes across like he's just this happy-go-lucky, like, hard worker, but it's like you're not really, you know what I mean? And on it, like, it used to bother me. Like, it used to bother me a lot, like 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Like, it bothered me a lot because I had reps still calling me. He posted, like, one of his reps screenshotted and sent it to me. It was like my goals as a manager. It was like where I want to be in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And they screenshotted it to me because he put it on his like Snapchat story or something, and was like, it was like real classic, or like real sweet or something. And I sent it to him, and I was like, what is so hard? Like, why are you still so butthurt that I left? Like, I'm sorry that you don't make money off of me anymore, but like, why does my name keep coming out of your mouth? Like, are you that mad that like, sorry that such a good person that you had under you, like, you can't manipulate them anymore into making more money for you? And I just remember his, like, when I closed my office, his fiance at the time and wife now came down, and like they're all kinds of bent out of shape at me for closing, and no one would talk to me, and his whole office who was there like helping him grab inventory, they just were like snarling at me. Like, I was just like, what is the problem? Like, what in the world is he telling them? You know what I mean? So like, I can't imagine what he would make up now, you know, for me making this video with you, because I feel like he would just use it as a, you know, of course, and I'm sure you know this, there is going to be a meeting ran about it. They're going to run a meeting about how, you know, oh, these people are just disgruntled employees, or, you know, they didn't have what it took, or like they should have stayed, Rachel could have stayed longer and she would have seen the benefits of it. And it's like, at what point do you say enough's enough? Right? There were so many warning signs and so many like write-ups, but they were all anonymous. You know what I mean? So like, whenever I was going through the field and I was like, my parents were like, what about this review, or what about that review, or like, what happened, you know, is this real, or like whatever, it was all anonymous reviews. So like, to me, putting a face and a name to it, it makes it more credible, right? And I think this is also some kind of like closure to me too, because it's been a long time that I've wanted to share this with like my family and my friends, to like the extent of how terrible it was, and like how much I was lying to myself and lying to them, and lying, just all of it. It's going to help one person not go through what I did. It's going to help one person not sign up for something that is not what they think it is. You know, it's going to help one person quit that much sooner and find an actual career. If you're the least bit even looking at videos like this, you probably need to leave. Like, you probably need to get out, because if you have any inkling in you that, like that review said, if you have any inkling that it's not, if something's off, it probably is. So you should probably get out. And the idea that you can't start over, like, you can start over. It might take you a minute to find a job, but you can bartend in the meantime and then find something that's actually a legitimate business that's going to lead you somewhere. And it's, again, if anyone needs help closing, like, I hope that, you know, I could be assistance to them. But if you're closing and you have no money in either of your accounts, there's no reason for, you can just walk away, because there's no reason for you to continue to invest and try to help with inventory and try to close your office when you're not making any money out of it anyways. So you can literally walk away. But I think that the business just tries to convince you, and it does convince you. It convinced me for a very long time that that's all I was worth, and that was, you know, my end all be all, that was going to be my, you know, I'm going to retire at 35 or whatever it is. And it's just, you have to take a minute and sit down and genuinely think, is this really what I'm telling myself it is? Is this really what everyone's telling me that it is? Because more than likely it's not. So if someone's watching this documentary and they're, you know, on your channel, or they're messaging you, or you're thinking of calling someone and telling them that, you know, this doesn't seem right, or you don't feel like you're being treated right, you're probably right. So like, get out while you can.